Welcome, Mr. Kuleman, and thank you for agreeing to this interview. Would you mind briefly introducing yourself and telling us about your role within KPN?
Yeah, I'm Hans Kuleman. I'm Vice President of Corporate Communications and CSR for KPN, meaning that I'm responsible for PR, media relations, internal communications, sponsoring, also communications externally to other stakeholders and interaction with other stakeholders, and CSR, corporate social responsibility, so the whole sustainability agenda also rests in my department.
In 2012, a hack occurred at KPN in which a hacker gained access to highly sensitive data. Would you mind telling us how you became involved in dealing with this incident?
I was responsible for the corporate communications of a big, major telecommunications and ICT company in the Netherlands with an issue that we didn't really know at that moment what it was and how big it was and what the consequences might be. So that was a pretty insecure situation, to put it mildly.
Could you talk about some of the most relevant security challenges that you face when dealing with this type of incident?
The first thing, which is absolutely vital for a service company that we service many consumers in the market. We service a lot of corporates and also business in the Netherlands. A lot of companies, small and medium size and large. All those people we service as a company. And customers, when you talk about privacy and security matters, are immediately involved when something would go wrong in your system. That's one thing. The other thing is that we are a very vital company for Dutch society as a whole. The ICT infrastructure in the Netherlands, whether it's the mobile system or it's the television system or any system that you can think of, has a very vital impact on Dutch society as a whole. So you immediately realize that you have to face big issues in terms of your customers on the one hand and in terms of Dutch society as a whole if something goes wrong or if things happen that we cannot control anymore.
Could you give some concrete examples of themes that come to mind or situations?
Well, the first question that you have is, are there security systems like, for example, 112 or other systems that we use in Holland to call for immediate assistance when you have a heart attack or some things like that. The immediate question that you have is that in danger somehow, or is the television system in danger so that people cannot watch television anymore? So many questions come into mind of what is the size and what is the impact of this potential crisis to our system. And when you don't have all the answers yet, you really have to think about scenarios. So you immediately bring in your communications people, also on a Sunday, and even people from outside with experience to think about all the possible scenarios and figure out what to do in terms of communication.
And can you give us some examples of some challenges that you encountered in this process?
Well, the first thing is, I think the biggest challenge is that you have to operate in a very secretive way. Because if you are encountered with extortionists or people that really want to damage your company or people, you cannot immediately go to the press. You have all sorts of rules, you are working with justice and police and other organizations. And they have, of course, logically a tendency to keep things quiet because you want to catch the thief and not to make him run away. But that is a sort of dilemma. On the other hand, you know that you have the customers, this immense group of people which are very dependent on you and on your service. So what do you do when something goes wrong, and how are you prepared to those people to immediately stand there and have a good story and help them? And that's a sort of dilemma. So you are in between secrecy on the one hand and transparency on the other hand. So you really have to think careful. You have to work together with lawyers, with people who know everything about compliance, but also about the kind of liabilities that you have potentially. But also bear in mind all the time, you are a service provider. Your company is based on the services that you deliver to customers every day. So if somehow customers get the picture that you were not transparent enough, that you kept things from them, which have damaged their business or anything else, then your reputation, everything falls apart. So your position in the world and also in the Netherlands as ICT provider is so vital that anything that might question that is an immediate threat to your business and your company, and also to the customers, of course.
So how do you make sure that you stay ahead of the story?
The most important thing is that you are totally aware of all the facts that you know. So all the facts that you know, which are for sure, that you have them as communications officer and that you can advise the board which facts are facts that we can share, which facts we cannot share yet because they are not secure yet, or they could damage people or damage customers or whatever. So it's very important to get hold of the facts, of the things that you really know. Not things that you think you know, but the things that you actually know. And I think that's very important, because as soon as these things get into the media or on social or the newspaper media, you have to base yourself on the facts. You have to always be totally open and transparent on the things that you know and where you can communicate about. And I think that's absolutely vital. So keep hold of what's going on, and what do we know, what do we don't know, what are we working on, what do we expect in the coming days that we achieve, or what we can do for customers. All that stuff, you have to be in control of that. So you have to be in connectivity with the crisis management team. I'm part of that team, of course. You have to know everything and all the real facts about the crisis. I think that's something that you absolutely have to do.
From your perspective, what makes the manner in which these types of incidents are managed by KPN so successful? What can a company like KPN learn from this approach?
First of all, you have to be prepared. So one thing we do now on a very regular basis is crisis management training. So be prepared for crises like this. That's one thing. I think the other thing is be very on top of the consequences of a crisis for your stakeholders, whether it's your customers, society, or other stakeholders. And thirdly is to be able to very quickly create the right team, and also in communications, the right people around that can help you to manage the crisis properly, and be prepared quickly, and be dealing on a continuous basis with sharing information with the outside world. Because as a director, you have to be part of the crisis management team all the time, but the operations of your department and everything that has to be dealt with has to move on at the same time. And you cannot cut yourself in 10 different persons. So you need to really manage that properly as well. Think about the resourcing, what you need to manage crises like this. And I think the most important lesson is if you know the facts, and if you can communicate the facts, be as open and transparent as possible about that towards the outside world. So in our case, example, when the politicians started to ask questions about what was going on at KPN, and why was that the case, and why didn't they manage up front something like that? Why was it possible that they were hacked? We sent the CEO and the managing director of the Netherlands towards the politicians in The Hague and just explained it very bluntly, what happened, also why it happened, so what went wrong and why did it go wrong, and what we are going to do about it. And in a very blunt and simple way. No secrets, just how it was. We were not prepared enough for something like that, and because of that we immediately took steps to create a much better security and privacy environment than before, which we actually also did.
Thank you for this interview, Mr. Koeleman.